Very good. So we are still under numerical solutions of ordinary differential equation. In our previous video, we discussed about the Eller method, and we got to know that for Eller method, it is less effective. Hence, it demands a limited application. So today we are moving on to Runge method. So this is another method that we use to solve ordinary differential equation in numerical solutions. So for Runge, it is effective and is widely used in solving ordinary differential equations. So under Runge, we are having several methods of solving it. We are having the second order method, the third order method, and the fourth order method. So in today's lesson, I will take you through the first, second, and the fourth, the second, third, and the fourth order method. Very good. So the second order method. We start with the second order method. So second order method. So with the second order method, you'll be given the initial value, that is y of x naught equals y naught. So all the time your initial value will be given, and your age will also be given. Very good. So the algorithm for solving the second order method is y of I plus 1 equals yi plus half k plus 1 plus k2. So this is the algorithm for solving the second order method. Now, we don't know k1, but we know that of I, yi, and I start from 0, 1, 2, 3, up to infinity. But for k and k1, it wasn't given the question. So how are you going to get k1? We get k1 by multiplying h by the function xi, yi. So this is how we get our k1. And for k2, we get our k2 by multiplying h by the function xi plus h, yi plus h. So this is how we get our k1 and k2. So you substitute in the values in this format. Very good. So this is about the second order method. Now let's talk about the third order method. Third order method. So as I said, you will be given your initial value and your age value and the point that you are estimating as. So let's say you are estimating as y of b. So this will be the point that you are estimating at, or the reflection. We want the reflection of b. So for the third order method, the algorithm that we go by is yi plus 1 equals yi plus 1 on 6. You open your bracket, k1 plus 4k2 plus k3. So this is the algorithm that we go by solving the third order method. So in the questions you say that find the third order method using Runge. So it means that you are going to go by this algorithm. All the time the initial condition is given, so we normally know our y naught. Very good. So how do we find our k1, k2, and k3? So in the third order, we find our k1, that is h multiplying the function x I, y I. So this is how we find our k1. And for k2, we find k2 by multiplying h f of xi plus h on 2, yi plus k1 on 2. So it's quite different from using the second order method. Now, how do we find our k3? For k3, find k3 by h of f of x I plus h of 2 comma yi plus k2 minus k1. So this is how we also find our k3. But mind you, probably you are using y. If we are going by y naught, it means that we are not going to find x1. But assuming we are using y equals 1, so for I equals 1, it means that we'll be having x1. Assuming I equals x2, it means that we'll be having x2. And how do we find our x2? We find our x2 or x1 by adding s0 plus h. We also find our x2 by adding x1 plus h, and so on s3 by adding s2 plus h. So assuming that iteration, we are to use I to be 1 or I to be 2, we go by it is to get our s1, s2, and s3. So this is about the third order method of solving Runge Kutta or using Runge Kutta method. Very good. Let's talk about the fourth order method, and then we start solving the question under it. Fourth order method. I'm saying that each of the method has its algorithm that we go by. So the third order method is y of I plus 1 equals yi plus 1 on 6. So you write your k1 plus 2 multiplying k2 plus 2 multiplying k3 plus your k4. So this is the algorithm for finding the fourth order method. Normally you use the fourth order method in the Runge Kutta solution. So now we all the time we know our yi. If I is 0, it means that here will be y0, and for y0 is equal to the initial value that you'll be given. Very good. So now, assuming we are finding, we don't know our k1, we don't know our k2, k3, k4. So how do we get our k1? We get our k1 by h multiplying the function xi, yi, and our k2, h, all the time the h is multiplying it. So k2 f of xi plus h on 2, comma so here is the function of s, here is the function of y. So yi plus k1 on 2. Very good. So now, how do we go by our the third one, k3? This is h of f xi plus h on 2, comma yi plus k2 on 2. Very well. So now our fourth term, how do we find our k4? So to find our k4 is h of f si plus, we bring the h, comma y plus yi plus k4. So this is how we go by the fourth one. So we've talked about the second order, we talked about the third order, and we also talk about the fourth method. So now today we are going to solve a question under the second order. So let's take a question under the second order.